Tavis, Smiley, and I'm glad to have you hanging around with us today. What an amazing first hour, and looking forward to two more amazing hours today. Some great conversations lined up. In our third and final hour today, we'll be joined by jazz master Terrence Blanchard. He has made the list this year of the NEA, the National Endowment for the Arts, their Jazz Masters list. That's a high honor, and we'll celebrate that. We'll talk about the New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Festival and talk about his Grammy Award winning opera, Fire Shut Up in My Bones. When Terrence Blanchard joins us, this jazz master is he in our third and final hour today. But in this hour, two more conversations on the B side of this hour. We'll be joined live in studio by UCLA's Dr. Marcus Anthony Hunter to talk about a letter that you might have read about. It made a lot of news. A letter signed by over 400 lawmakers, activists, actors, and more, calling on President Biden to support a list of congressional bills on racial equity and reparative justice through executive actions and orders. As I said earlier, full transparency, I am one of the persons, one of those 400 plus people who agreed to affix their signature to the letter. So we'll talk about the letter, what it says, what it's asking or demanding of this particular president, with Dr. Marcus Anthony Hunter of UCLA, who joins us live in studio in about 30 minutes or less. But we commenced this hour with another guest who's been on this program, and glad to have her back. University of San Diego Dean Kimberly White-Smith, on ways we can all support our neurodivergent fellow citizens as part of Autism Awareness Month. Dean Kimberly White-Smith, good to have you back. How are you today?
Oh, I'm great. How are you doing? Thank you so much for having me.
I am well. If I complained, I'd be an ingrate. I am doing well and delighted to have you back on the program. Let me start with this big word that I used a moment ago. I always want to make sure there are two things that are always in my mind with every conversation. For all the decades I've been doing this on television and radio, I never want to make the assumption that everybody knows exactly what the guest and I are talking about, and I never want to insult anybody's intelligence. I don't want to talk down to the audience. I don't want to talk over their heads. So it's a balancing act every single day, and that's a big word when we refer to people as neurodivergent. What does that mean?
Absolutely. So, neurodiversity actually captures the different ways that our brains work. And when we talk about someone who is neurodivergent, we're talking about someone who learns differently than what usual expectations are, like in a classroom or in a workspace. So, for instance, people who are on the autism spectrum, people with ADHD, ADD, dyslexia, dyscalculia, all of those diagnoses would fall under neurodiversity and neurodivergent thinking.
Thank you for that. Is there any, let me swing out here. I don't know that there is. I want to ask it because this is your lane. You're the expert. Is there any racial component, any racial element that we are aware of when it comes to neurodiversity?
I'm so glad you asked that because this is the aspect of neurodiversity and autism that really doesn't get talked about. But the intersection of gender, race, and autism is hardly spoken about. Autistic women, and particularly those from BIPOC backgrounds, are often overlooked in research. And so when we think of an autistic person, you tend to think about a white male, right? But did you know that for every 3 men that are autistic, there are 4 women? And then when we look at the gender aspects, our Black girls are underrepresented in this aspect 80%. So when you think about Black women, you also have to understand that they're very good at masking the symptoms of autism. So many of our women, they go out into the world and they mask these symptoms and they lean into things such as cooking, things that are culturally acceptable, but they still have auditory processing issues, touch sensitivities. Many of our girls have touch sensitivities. Think about that. In a world where people continuously want to touch our Black girls, so they're double marginalized.
I want to talk more about the Black angle here in just a second. Let me just back up one more time and ask this. Give me a better understanding of the source, why it is that so many fellow citizens are being diagnosed these days as autistic. From whence does autism come?
So, thinking about kind of the underpinnings of this, it goes back many years. And I am an expert in how teaching and learning happens in the classroom and understanding autism as a function of that and neurodiversity as a function of that. I'm not a historian of the disorder, but it's something I've been in classrooms since 1994. And it's something that we've been discussing since before my time in the classroom. And so this goes back many years, but I will tell you it is historically something that is only recognized within white boys. Yeah. When I go into schools and to communities and classrooms where they recognize these individuals, they give them additional supports, they put them in specialized classes where their genius is recognized and elevated. It isn't our Black boys and girls. It's not our Latinx boys and girls. It's not our indigenous boys and girls. Yep. And so this is something I want to elevate.
Well, we'll talk about that. We'll elevate. I promise you we will elevate that. We will elevate it and amplify it when we come forward with Dean Kimberly White-Smith on Tavis Smiley.
Hope, agency, dignity. This is Tavis Smiley.
Can you dig it? Come on!
Hey y'all, Mona Swain here from Target's new YouTube series, My Cart is Full, where we feature Black founders and creators highlighting their connection to our community. As an actor and content creator, I love using my voice to inspire young Black women who look like me. When it comes to feeding my shine, seeing myself reflected in Black-owned and founded products at Target brings me joy. Together, we are Black Beyond Measure. Learn more at target.com/Black Beyond Measure.
Cookie wants to be a professional wrestler.
I'm Cookie Serratos, and I'm 11 years old.
She also wants to win all the medals. That's why Cookie and her family make every day count, squeezing out her best with Go-Go Squeeze.
Okay, Cookie, let's break for a Go-Go Squeeze.
Go-Go Squeeze fruit-on-the-go pouches are a nutritious snack made from 100% fruit with no sugar added.
Go, Cookie!
Because when you nurture your kids, you squeeze out the best in them. Squeeze out the best with Go-Go Squeeze. Not a low-calorie food. Products range from 11 to 13 grams of sugar and 60 to 70 calories per serving.
The possibility of lung cancer can be pretty scary, especially if you're one of approximately 8 million current or former smokers at high risk. That's why SaveByTheScan.org wants you to know that now there's a breakthrough low-dose CT scan that can detect lung cancer early, and it only takes 60 seconds. You stop smoking, now start screening. For an easy quiz to see if you're eligible, visit SaveByTheScan.org. It could save your life. SaveByTheScan.org is brought to you by the American Lung Association's Lung Force Initiative and the Ad Council.
We've got a lot to talk about.
Hi, I'm Ray Richardson, your sports connection here at KBLA Talk 1580. Join me and my co-host Neil Scarborough every Saturday night at 7 for Out of Bounds, the show that brings some flavor to the world of sports for 60 minutes. We take you beyond the scores and press conferences. We give you our point of view, the way Black folks see what's going down. You can join the conversation and give us your analysis at 1-800-920-1580. Out of Bounds every Saturday night at 7 on KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
You like your style, though.
For the ones who work hard to ensure their crew can always go the extra mile, and the ones who get in early so everyone can go home on time, there's Grainger, offering professional-grade supplies backed by product experts so you can quickly and easily find what you need. Plus, you can count on access to a committed team ready to go the extra mile for you. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Sometimes I struggle to get to sleep. My body stopped for the day, but my mind is still running. So I take ZQuil.
ZQuil, the world's #1 sleep aid brand, has a range of non-habit-forming products to fit you and your family's needs. Invest in a great night's sleep for the best you tomorrow.
I'm awake and ready to take on anything.
Better days start with ZQuil nights. Explore our products at ZQuil.com. Use as directed. Keep out of reach of children.
Who do you trust to get at the truth?
Tavis Smiley.
That's who. The conversation continues right now.
It does indeed with University of San Diego Dean Kimberly White-Smith as we talk about the ways that all of us can support our fellow neurodivergent citizens as part of Autism Awareness Month. We were talking moments ago, then I want to come right back to that, about why it is, and no naivete here, but why it is that black boys and black girls are not being included in this conversation in ways that they should. I know a number of people who are doing some really righteous work and heavy lifting to change that narrative. I just saw Holly Robinson Pete and Rodney Pete a few days ago, in fact. There are others who I know, Reva Martin, one of my colleagues on my station in Los Angeles. So there are a lot of people I know who are in this space who are doing some really, really righteous work in this regard. Again, so no naivete here, Dr. Kimberly White-Smith, but why is it that we are,
Sure.
why are we left out of this?
Yeah. It's interesting because there is evidence that historically we are left out of the conversation because our children tend to be misdiagnosed in the schooling system. And so even in 2004, Congress recognized the disproportionality of Black students in the special education pipeline with diagnoses of social emotional disorder. And these tags or these labels actually speak to behaviors that teachers and principals are seeing from our children in the classroom without any underlying representation of what is really operating or what is really the root cause of their behavior challenges. And so our kids are being misdiagnosed and they're being labeled with these tags that pulls them out of the academic classroom, that does not allow teachers or administrators to have empathy or sympathy for our students. That's why it's so important to have an accurate diagnosis. Now, how do you get that? Well, traditionally, if your parents have the money, they can pay a psychologist or psychiatrist to do the testing and get the label and start getting and demanding that the school system gives their child the supports that they need. If you come from an underrepresented community, if you come from a poor community, under-resourced or an economically oppressed community, you don't have access to those resources. And then you just get caught in this cycle where you have your child labeled social emotional disorder when that's really not the case.
Mm-hmm. And how do we, I want to frame this the right way, to the extent that we can, how do we, what are the steps necessary to first stop that mislabeling? Then I got follow-ups. How do we stop the mislabeling? How do we arrest that?
Yeah. Well, the numbers don't lie. If you look at any of the school districts and you pull the numbers of our Black kids in special education, you will see the misrepresentation and the mislabeling. It's very apparent. And it's not a secret. What we need to do is band together to demand that these labels be reevaluated and the children with those labels be reevaluated. In California, we didn't even recognize dyslexia until 2018. So we have generations of teachers that aren't even trained to work effectively with our students who have dyslexia. And so this is something that we as a community can band together in order to support our students being reassessed. I think that we need to think about the ways in which we as a society can elevate this idea and make our workplaces and our community spaces more radically welcoming to individuals who are neurodivergent or on the autism spectrum.
Yep. I want to be careful how I ask this question because I'm certainly not trying to indict them. But what is the challenge to parents? What is the role of a parent? What is the responsibility of a parent when they think or believe they have a child who has, in fact, been mislabeled, misdiagnosed by the school system?
Mm-hmm. I've been thinking about that a lot because really that's the charge here with our Center for Embodied Equity and Neurodiversity. When we think of individuals who actually experience autism or neurodivergence, it usually in our communities tend to be a double diagnosis. So they might have a ADHD, but also have some sort of trauma. And so like I mentioned before, our Black girls are so good at masking the signs of their neurodiversity or their autism that we don't even recognize it. And the things that we tend to scrutinize our Black women about are things that are an innate part of their neurodiversity. And so that's really a critical aspect of us looking at ourselves. What do we recognize as norms? What do we judge our fellow citizens about? What do we look at girls and Black Black women and criticize them on? These are aspects of our culture and our community that we need to work on first. We have to put our oxygen mask on first before we can go out and help anyone else.
I'm never surprised, never shocked at the excellence of Black people, whatever the endeavor might be. And yet I am struck by your reference 2 or 3 times now to how brilliant these Black girls are at masking their neurodivergence. Tell me more about how they became such experts at that and what that actually means.
Yeah. So when we think about autism in girls and women, it doesn't show up the same that it does for boys. So we tend to think of the impacts with regards to personality, being distant, things of that nature. But it affects different areas in the brains with females. So fine motor skills, executive functioning, emotional regulation are not typically the areas that autism impact our girls. And so these differences kind of help us develop social communication affects that really don't line up with what we typically recognize as autism. So think about our Black girls that perseverate on particular things, right? That perseverate on cooking, that perseverate on other different skills. Think about in the last few years, our Black girls that have been pulled out of the classroom by police because they did not want to be touched, right? We need to start thinking more about the underlying symptoms in which we are thinking about our Black women and our Black girls.
Yep. I'm glad you raised that. What is your indictment? And I'm asking this question broadly, specifically and unapologetically. What is your indictment of the system when it comes to these issues of neurodivergence and the ways in which, my word here, not yours, Black and brown babies are maltreated? To your point, we've all seen these videos. They happen far too often. It seems every other day somebody's posting another one of some Black girl who literally, a baby who's being arrested by cops, and the baby doesn't want to be touched, and it just escalates into the worst kind of horror. And so I ask what your indictment is of the system that allows this to continue to happen.
Absolutely. Well, there's 2 things operating here. There are gender norms that we as a society put on women specifically, right? So women are supposed to want to have children. They're supposed to want to be touched. They're supposed to want to have this type of intimate connection. They're supposed to like being told that they're attractive. So there's the gender norms, number one, and then that's exacerbated by being Black women because our Black babies tend to be hypersexualized in society. And then the other piece of this is this myth, this cultural myth, these stereotypes about these brilliant autistic white boys and men, right? And as a result of that, our diagnostic tools are primarily normed on white males. The majority of autism research is focused on males and in particular white males. So there's 2 aspects to this. One that is a societal gender normalizing of behaviors that actually don't support autistic Black women, and this other aspect of the tools that we have that help us identify our children, our boys, and their where they are on the autism spectrum, again, aren't created for them.
So let me ask you this. Even if we could succeed, and I pray that in the months and years to come we'll get better at this, and this is what your work in part is all about. Even if we can and will ultimately succeed at doing better on the mislabeling of black babies, black boys and girls, if we progress on the mislabeling issue, is the system ready then to properly serve these kids once they've been properly labeled?
hmm I think true progress in this arena definitely means recognizing and dismantling the systemic oppression barriers that doubly marginalized autistic individuals receive, right? Like our black and brown babies. So we have to, one, recognize that, but two, we have to recognize the genius and the potential that our black girls, black boys, black women, black men bring to the table, right? This idea of disability, autism, neurodiversity cannot be uncoupled from this fight for our right to academic justice and equity along racialized lines. So that's one aspect. The second aspect is once we recognize what's going on for them, once we recognize the label, there are definitely embodied approaches that we can utilize and work, understanding polyvagal theory, understanding how we can really regulate our autonomic systems. These are strategies that we know now work for autistic and neurodivergent learners, and it's part of what Dr. Nikki Elliott here in our Center for Embodied Equity and Neurodiversity does with our school communities and our teachers. We have the know-how. We need to start doing it.
Since you went there, I want to follow you. I'm watching my time. Got about 3 minutes left here. In this particular moment, given the work that you're doing in your center, what does it mean to be about the business, to have committed yourself to fostering academic justice? That's the phrase, academic justice. What's that mean in this moment, to be fostering academic justice for people who look like you and me?
Absolutely. So for me, social justice doesn't get to what is actually occurring in our schools, in our classrooms, in our communities with our boys and girls. Academic justice, for me, along the lines of what I learned from those social justice leaders and those civil rights leaders from the past, like Bob Moses, who understood that mathematics was a barrier to academic attainment. So mislabeling our children leads to pulling them out of academic classes, putting them in spaces where they're learning life skills, living skills, as opposed to the tools of reading, writing, mathematics that they're going to need to be successful later on in life, whether they are developing their skills to work as a craftsman or they're going into higher education. It does not matter. We need to be recognized, and we need to understand that we can provide multiple paths for our children. The fact that we've moved away from this idea of developing careers in workspaces where our children can work with their hands is really counterintuitive to what we know about our neurodivergent learners and their ability to work with their hands and to become skilled. And we know in many of these professions that we can make high salaries. So we need to be thinking about that as well. Building, constructing, HVAC, all of those pieces as well.
Yep. Let me close in the 60 seconds I have left by allowing you to do a tribute to the man you referenced a moment ago. I got chill bumps when you mentioned his name. I haven't heard that name in a while. But some years ago, I had the great honor, met him a number of times, but one night I sat for a 3 or 4 hour dinner with Bob Moses. And it was one of the most amazing nights of my life, just sitting with this American icon, Bob Moses, and all that he did in the civil rights era, and then even beyond with his work on mathematics. But just say a quick word about why we should call the name of Bob Moses out more frequently.
Many years ago, about 20 years ago, Bob Moses started this movement called Education as a Civil Right. He really talked about, and we met several times to discuss the ways in which we as a country are not doing right by our Black and brown babies in the education system. Education is not a civil right here in the United States. It is something that each of the states can operate in the way that they so choose. And guess what? It's not even mandated that our babies have pre-K education or education past 8th grade. So what does that mean? We are not censoring education.
Nope, I take your point. I'm out of time, and I wish I had more time to talk just about Bob Moses. But there's your assignment for the day. If you've never heard the name Bob Moses or want to learn more about him, just Google Bob Moses and read about this amazing Black man and all that he accomplished in his lifetime. For now, we thank Dean Kimberly White-Smith for downloading us in this hour about what we can do to support our fellow neurodivergent citizens as part of Autism Awareness Month. Doc, thanks for your work. Good to have you back on this program.
I appreciate you. Good to be back.
Good to have you on. More of Tavis Smiley when we come forward.
What's your quarrel with the world? You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
Paid for by government.com. Did you know? The United States Mint has issued a new Morgan silver dollar coin in proof condition for the first time. Not only that, they are also minted in 99.9% pure silver for the first time ever in history. Coin experts are calling this an amazing opportunity for anyone that knows the enduring popularity of Morgans. But you must hurry. Only 400,000 of these legal tender silver dollars were issued. These first ever Morgan silver dollars are brand new with stunning mirror-like finish, minted by the iconic San Francisco Mint. Call now and you're guaranteed a new first ever 99.9% pure silver proof Morgan dollar. To learn more, call 1-800-973-9717. If you order now, you will receive a free coin collector bonus pack, a $25 value, free with every order. Call 1-800-973-9717 now to secure your new Morgan silver dollars before they are gone. That's 1-800-973-9717.
It's a Monday, April 22nd. I'm Mike Moore. Here's the latest from the Black Information Network. Columbia University is moving classes online with more pro-Palestinian protests planned today. Today marks day 6 of demonstrations, and the school's president is calling it a crisis. The university announced plans to more than double campus security. Protesters say they want the school to divest from companies that they say profit from Israel's violations of international law and Palestinian rights. A war veteran and one of the Tuskegee Airmen is serving as the Grand Marshal of Pittsburgh's Juneteenth parade this year. African-American Colonel James H. Harvey has been selected for that honor. Harvey is a 100-year-old Pennsylvania native, and he flew combat missions in World War II and the Korean War. And that's the latest. I'm Mike Moore from your 24/7 news source, the Black Information Network, and BINnews.com.
Hey, it's Dean Sharp. How does 3 months of free electricity and a lifetime of energy savings sound? Well, it's yours when you go solar with Sunlux. Learn more at sunlux.com, sunlux.com.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Clippers got the job done without Kawhi Leonard. A sore right knee kept Leonard out of the Clippers' win over Dallas in Game 1 of their first-round playoff series. 5 players scored in double figures. James Harden had 28 points and 8 assists. Despite Leonard's absence, Clippers coach Ty Lue used only 8 players the entire game. Game 2 is Tuesday night at 7 on TNT. The Lakers are trying to let folks know that the Denver Nuggets are not inside their heads. 9 straight losses to the Nuggets have a lot of people wondering if the Lakers can beat the Nuggets. It won't happen if D'Angelo Russell and the rest of the team doesn't shoot better. The Lakers made only 8 of 29 three-pointers in Game 1. Russell was 6 for 20, including 1 of 9 from three-point range. The Lakers need to find their shooting touch in a hurry. Game 2 is tonight in Denver, 7 p.m. tip-off on TNT. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
Some people just know the best rate for you is a rate based on you with Allstate, not one based on anyone else. So if you drive safely, you could save money. Good to know. Visit allstate.com or call for a quote today.
KBLA Talk 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. Stay Housed LA has the resources you need to know your rights and the legal support to back them up. The COVID-19 pandemic has cost people their jobs and livelihoods. This has left an estimated 1/3 of households not being able to make rent and facing losing their homes. This is a fear no one in our community should have to face. You have rights, though, and Stay Housed LA is here to help. Stay Housed LA is a partnership between the County of Los Angeles, the City of Los Angeles, and local community and legal service providers. Together, they provide tenants with the information and support needed to exercise their rights so they can remain safely in their homes. Find out more about your rights by participating in a virtual tenant workshop. Get the legal assistance you need. Find additional resources in Los Angeles County and the City of Los Angeles. Stay connected to Stay Housed LA County for updates. This and more at stayhousedla.org. Stay connected to Stay Housed LA for updates. This and more at stayhousedla.org. That's stayhousedla.org. Or call their hotline at 213-694-0040. We've got your black with a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Some days I cover up because of my moderate to severe plaque psoriasis.
Now I'm hitting the road with clearer skin thanks to Skyrizi, Risankizumab Riza, a prescription-only 150 milligram injection for adults who are candidates for systemic or phototherapy. With Skyrizi, 3 out of 4 people achieved 90% clearer skin at 4 months. And Skyrizi is just 4 doses a year after 2 starter doses.
Don't use if allergic to Skyrizi. Serious allergic reactions and an increased risk of infections or a lower ability to fight them may occur. Before treatment, your doctor should check for infection and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms such as fever, sweats, chills, muscle aches, or cough, or if you plan to or recently received a vaccine.
Thanks to Skyrizi, there's nothing on my skin, and that means everything. Your doctor today about Skyrizi, the #1 dermatologist prescribed biologic in psoriasis, and visit skyrizi.com or call 1-866-SKY-RIZZI to learn more.
Smart talk for curious people just like you. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
And I'm glad about it. In this half hour, as promised, UCLA's Dr. Marcus Anthony Hunter joins us live in studio to talk about this letter that I referenced earlier that's been signed by over 400 plus lawmakers, activists, actors, and more, calling on President Joe Biden to support a list of congressional bills on racial equity and reparative justice through executive orders and executive actions. We know that the president always has the power of the pen. And full transparency here, yours truly is one of the 400 plus people who agreed to affix their signature to the letter. No apologies for that. And so we spent a few moments now talking about this letter, what's in the letter, why the letter was written, why we signed the letter, and most importantly, what we hope to achieve by releasing the letter to the president publicly. And to do all that, I welcome UCLA's Dr. Marcus Anthony Hunter. Doc, how are you today, sir?
I'm blessed and highly favored. Thank you so much. And just shout out to you for adding your name to the list of people. I want to thank Reverend Al Sharpton, Tamika Mallory, Darnell Moore, Law Roach, Dr. David Johns, Prophet from BMAC, and over 400 other people who put their name out there. Ben Crump, our brother Ben Crump.
A bunch of members of
Absolutely,
Congress.
Yes. Derek Johnson, president of NAACP. Yep. Yes, and all of the regular, smegular, degular folks who put their name on the list as well, because equity is an issue that impacts everyone's life. And overall, one of the big key issues has been, why is it that the most powerful black woman in all of Congress, Congresswoman Barbara Lee, has been unable to secure a meeting with him? Unable to secure a meeting even when you have Representative Sheila Jackson Lee, Representative Cori Bush, Representative Jamal Bowman, Senator Cory Booker, Representative Jamie Raskin. I mean, it is very difficult to get members to all unify on any piece of legislation, let alone a series of pieces that have been introduced. And so the goal was really to turn on all the lights, make sure that he's aware that we're still holding you accountable for how, from my vantage point, you got into office.
So what did, in essence, the letter say, and what are the demands made in the letter?
Yeah, the letter that we put out on April 4th, which for folks who don't know, was selected intentionally because it is the anniversary of the assassination of the king, who had transitioned toward a fully robust understanding of reparative justice. And so it's no accident to think about how difficult it was then. It was his life. And we want to make sure that his life is not only remembered for the end, but also for where he was taking us. And part of what the letter says is that we want to uplift the letters that the president received on President's Day from the members of Congress already mentioned, and also from over 180 organizations. And we are wanting for you to take action. And part of what happens is the original letter started right before the State of the Union. And what's important for people to know is that the State of the Union has been shown statistically to not influence political outcomes. So that says, why are you not at least mentioning reparations, equity, Breonna Taylor? Why are we not hearing her name in the State of the Union? So when we hear, oh, it's a political season, we know statistically that what you say at the State of the Union doesn't change your chances. All it does is help to keep the media accountable for following stories about what we are up to. And I think until he actually gives his voice to hearing things, like I know that my colleague Gavin Newsom is leading the way in California on reparations processes. We are closely monitoring and paying attention to that. So when we say executive orders, that's about the pen. But when we say executive actions, that's about the bully pulpit. Can you at least acknowledge that your Democrat colleagues are paving a way in many of the nation's largest states?
And why do you think the president is lagging in this particular area? And let me just tee this up if I can, and you know where I'm going already. He gave us Juneteenth, and didn't nobody even ask for it.
Right.
I ain't mad at him about it.
Yeah, right.
But that came out of nowhere. He has been very, very good about black symbolism. I want to push him on the substance, as do you, to be a bit more progressive. But you can't fade him on the symbolism. Kamala Harris is VP. Ketanji Brown Jackson is on the Supreme Court. I think she's wrong about a lot of things. Not Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson, where I'm about to go. I think Linda Thomas Greenfield is wrong about a number of things she's advancing at the UN, but there's a black woman who represents us in the UN body. I could do this all day long. He has been better than Barack Obama at appointing black people. You know, if you care about black faces in high places, and so I think sometimes we make too much of that. But at the end of the day, he has not been shy about putting black folk in proper positions. He has not been shy about acknowledging black folk in his speeches. He's not been shy about saying, I wouldn't be president if it weren't for y'all, Negro. Well, he don't say Negro, but if it weren't for y'all, I wouldn't be president. He is not shy about saying that. So you see where I'm going here. He has not been shy about the black thing. But in this regard, he won't say the things that you believe and others believe who signed that letter that he ought to be saying, which doesn't even commit him to anything. But using that bully pulpit and putting that words matter, language matters. So given how black, putting that in air quotes, how black he is being in other spaces, why is he so shy about inhabiting this particular space? Does that make sense?
Yes, it totally does.
I just wanted to frame it properly.
Yeah, no, as you did, One thing that I think is important about the blackface at high places, and I know my colleague Ruha Benjamin at Princeton has been circulating because she gave a speech before Spelman about that and the issues around that, is that sometimes institutions, which in the words of the sociologist Chris Brown, ain't loyal, ways in which they become disloyal is by silencing you with black representation so that you seem ungrateful. And one thing that we know that is important as black people in our culture is the culture of gratitude. So always remember that we are further ahead than where we started. And if you start to push too hard, people think you're just complaining and you're ungrateful. So that creates an inability to push somebody because now they just see you as complaining. And what's unfortunate is that we know, if not for the life and loss of life of Breonna Taylor and George Floyd, you would not be president. Why have we not heard her name? Why have you not brought his grieving daughter back to your office to say, I know I promised you I would get this done. We're still working on it. Why is that not happening? And why, when you feel you're being called out about it, is the refrain about shutting us down by silencing us with the symbolism and the representation? To say, like, look at what I'm doing. I saw a recent flyer about the Biden-Harris administration has worked with the black community and achieved these things. They're listed not so much as accomplishments, accomplishments. But whoever is advising him, I don't think that they're aware of how it has a chilling factor to it. Are we not allowed to ask you for things? Because when you close the black-white wealth gap, that's just the job of the president. Let me just be clear about that. That's a duty every president has. Whether or not the person does it is not some special favor to us.
None has fulfilled it yet.
Yes, exactly.
But it is their duty, though.
Yes. So when I'm seeing canceling student debt and all of these other things, that would be the job of any president who was elected. Now, let's get back to how you got in office. And how you got in office is on the racial equity. And what we've been hearing in response, and you even see it in ABC coverage, shout out to Beatrice Peterson, who bravely covers this story over at ABC. They tell her on day one, the president signed the first ever historic racial equity, executive order. And every time I hear that, we're now 3 years later. Did you just do that so we couldn't ask for anything else? Are you just doing that to silence us? And so there's a fine line between supporting and silencing. And without the words being spoken, we are unsure how to interpret what all of these achievements are supposed to mean. Is that just get in line? Because I've been telling people, I hope everyone has seen the Shirley film. Shout out to the Queen, Regina King. But there's a part where she's before the Democratic Convention at a small meeting of the black folks, and she says, hold on to your vote. Okay, so even if you think you're going to give it to the Democratic Party or the Republican Party, whomever, hold on to it. They shouldn't really feel comfortable until they see the results. And I think that's another part of how we can help people understand how to appreciate and respect us, is to hold on to our vote.
That's why I always love talking to Dr. Marcus Anthony Hunter. He gives us a new way to see things. And I bet you probably never thought about black success as a silencing mechanism. But think about that. And that's why I'm always, I've said it 1,000 times, I'm always ambivalent about these black first. And I've been one of those black first in a lot of spaces in the media. But I'm always ambivalent about it because I see the point that you're making so clearly, that sometimes black success can be used as a silencing mechanism. They put a few Negroes in a few positions and they say, shut up, don't ask me for nothing else.
Right.
And you're supposed to be happy with that.
Yes.
And that's why he's on this program. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
Interrogating and unpacking.
That's what we do around here.
You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
What is dedication?
My biggest fear in the middle of my addiction was that my kids wouldn't have a father. And I started thinking, you know what? This isn't my story. I definitely had to become a better man to be a better father. It's important to me that my kids are empowered and truly believe that if they can think it, they can do it.
That's dedication. Visit fatherhood.gov to hear more. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Joey from Vermont, a farmer trying to get through the winter. Adriana from South Carolina, a single mother living paycheck to paycheck. Liam from Ohio, an injured father struggling to provide for his family. Hi, I'm Shanola Hampton, and I support the Feeding America network of food banks because they help provide over 6 billion meals to people in need each year. Learn more at feedingamerica.org.
Hi, I'm Reverend Gerald, host of Urban Family Focus here on KBLA Talk 1580 on Saturday mornings at 7 a.m. In an effort to help reduce the impact of hypertension in our community, Providence is offering free hypertension assessments. The first 30 people to visit KBLA1580.com and use the link or QR code to register will receive 2 tickets to the Amazing Grace Conservatory presentation of Aladdin, A Whole New World for Real, at the Crenshaw Performing Arts Center, May 25th and 26th. Go to KBLA1580.com right now and be one of the first 30 to register for your hypertension screening and receive 2 tickets to Aladdin, compliments of Providence and KBLA Talk 1580. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black.
Are you tired of being stuck without internet access? Connect and go with LA County Library. It's simple. Visit your local LA County Library location and borrow a hotspot for free to get Wi-Fi wherever you are.
Hello, this is Dr. Rosa Milligan calling autism business owners to register now for Black Writers on Tour plus Business and Tech Expo Saturday, April 27th, 10 to 3 p.m. at the Carson Community Center.
Authors, aspiring writers, learn how to write, publish, and sell your book. Business owners, let people know where you're at. Call 323-750-3592. It's a free event. You heard right, free. and there's something for everybody. Go to blackwritersontour.com and register today. 323-750-3592.
Literacy and technology is everybody's business. Black Writers on Tour, Saturday, April 27th, 10 to 3 p.m. Admission and parking is free. See you there, 323-750-3592. BlackWritersOnTour.com. Don't you miss it.
Let's get back to more of Tavis Smiley right now.
More of Dr. Marcus Anthony Hunter right now on Tavis Smiley. He's dropping bars up in here and getting us to think about black success as a way to silence black people from making future demands and additional demands. Specifically, the letter says to the president, and I want to frame it properly. I'll let you frame it properly. But let me just ask it this way. If the president doesn't respond to the demand in the letter, then what?
Then we're just going to keep applying pressure. And we have what we're calling the Equity Weekend coming up. It's a joint collaboration with the National Black Justice Coalition and the Black Music Action Coalition and a host of other organizations that signed the February 19th letter, where we're going to do out on the Hill advocacy with young people going up to Congress and promoting these bills and seeing where members stand. On that Wednesday, that Thursday, we're doing a Know Your Rights and Culture exposition to register people to vote and plus over at Blackburn. Shout out to Howard University, HU. Then on Friday, we're having a ball called the Equity Ball to celebrate and honor the Black, I call alphabet community, LGBTQIA plus SGL, as the original influencers, and to send up Bayard Rustin, the organizer behind the original March on Washington. And then we're going to be in Black Lives Matter Plaza on the Saturday, just steps away from the White House, on a Live Nation produced stage where we're going to have speakers and entertainers, basically, pumping that drum harder, because I think part of what happens is if we're not outside the doorstep, maybe you don't believe us, and so the organizer in me goes, okay, so we're just going to get closer and closer to that doorstep so that you understand that this is important. And also, what does it mean to simply ignore Black leaders? How is that acceptable? You cannot be telling me that you're doing all of these great things for Black people, but then they're elected officials, you won't even meet with them.
Dr. King famously said, as you know, you're a historian here, famously said in one of his speeches, actually more than one speech, now is the time. Now is the time. Now is the time. He used that refrain brilliantly. When we come forward, I want to flip the frame on that and ask you how you respond to people who say now is not the time. Now is not the time to be raised in this kind of Hades with the president facing. I hear the I hear the sarcasm. I hear it already just on the He ain't even said nothing yet, but the sound effects make it clear he ain't buying this argument. But there are people who argue that now, with all due respect, Dr. King, is not the time to be pressing the president, backing him into a corner, putting him in a box, sending him letters signed by 400 Negroes saying do this, that, and the other. Now is not the time. Donald Trump, on trial though he may be today, opening statements today, he's an existential threat to this democracy, and now is not the time to be messing with Uncle Joe. We'll talk about that part when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
For all the freedom-loving folk, this is Tavis Smiley.
I feel like
If you're like me, 60 and retired, making ends meet, especially here at the supermarket and drugstore, is tough. I'm so blessed to have found BenefitsCheckup.org. It's a free and confidential website from the National Council on Aging that connected me to $1,200 a year in programs that help pay for food, medicine, utilities, and more. Maybe it can help you. BenefitsCheckup.org.
My daughter was diagnosed with a rare malignant rhabdoid tumor on the spine. They sent her straight to St. Jude. My hope was gone. But when you get there, everyone's like, hey, we're not going to give up. And when you see other people not giving up on your child, that makes all the difference in the world. When I found out I didn't have to pay, I was just grateful. They saved my baby's life.
Finding cures, saving children. Learn more at stjude.org.
Girl, I have a secret. When I get stressed out, I get sweaty. That's why I use Secret Clinical Antiperspirant. It's like my own secret weapon. For 72 hours, I get Secret's strongest protection against sweat caused by stress, heat, and activity, because you know how crazy life can get. Plus, it's made with advanced odor fighters that don't just cover up smelliness. They help prevent it from happening in the first place. Believe me, if I weren't wearing Secret, I'd be a hot, smelly mess. Thankfully, Secret works.
That was another way I would smoke once an hour. That didn't work either. All that would happen at some point of the day, I would end up doubling up. Other ways that I tried to quit was I stopped buying cigarettes totally. But if I took 3 puffs off of 15 friends, those didn't count because they weren't my cigarettes and they weren't full cigarettes. I went through a lot.
Every attempt is part of your story to quit for good. Visit Kick It California today at kickitca.org.
These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
What's up?
I'm tired of feeling so bloated.
That used to be me. Then I got this.
Align Bloating Relief plus food digestion. A probiotic, right?
Yeah, it works naturally with your gut to help soothe occasional bloating and gas. Plus, it has vitamin B12 to aid digestion by helping convert food to cellular energy. 2 benefits, 1 capsule.
Align Bloating Relief plus food digestion from the #1 doctor-recommended probiotic brand. Learn more at alignprobiotics.com.
Sometimes I struggle to get to sleep. My body stopped for the day, but my mind is still running. So I take ZQuil.
ZQuil, the world's #1 sleep aid brand, has a range of non-habit-forming products to fit you and your family's needs. Invest in a great night's sleep for the best you tomorrow.
I'm awake and ready to take on anything.
Better days start with ZQuil nights. Explore our products at ZQuil.com. Use as directed. Keep out of reach of children.
He's rooting for everybody black. Everybody black. More of Tavis Smiley coming your way right now.
Dr. Marcus Anthony Hunter is at UCLA, but he went to Columbia. He taught at Yale. And I said earlier this program, sharing some breaking news, that they're arresting dozens of students as we speak on the campus of Yale. Columbia is now in remote classes. Harvard announced they're closing Harvard Yard. All over these protests being led by students about what's happening in Gaza. But again, since he has a Yale-Columbia connection, maybe 45 seconds on that at the very end of this conversation, where we have like 4 minutes left. But your first response to the issue I raised a moment ago, that some people are saying, black people are saying, with all respect, Marcus Anthony Hunter, we believe in your agenda, but now, Negro, is not the time. Sit your black behind down and just hold your tongue until once we get past November and we've done away with the existential threat to this democracy, and then you can have your say.
Also known as eat the cake anime, eat the cake.
Exactly.
And any person who's ever watched that, you go, stop eating that cake. Punch him in his mouth. Because there's never a good time to request and require freedom. It's never a good time to ask for peace or love in the world. This is what we're seeing on college campuses. The request is simple. Love and peace are the most powerful forms of power known to man. Why are we not living in them? And I would say when I hear that now is not the time, many of us, and when I go into spaces, I ask people by show of hands, how many people have lost someone to COVID or lost someone to death in recent years, and hands go up. And what I often say is, in a world where we're looking for a reason to understand our purpose in life, we actually were chosen. We were all chosen to survive the unsurvivable. So if we have been chosen and selected to survive the unsurvivable, how can it not be the time? How can it not be us? And I think it's important for people to understand when they start telling people to shut down their voice or shut down and wait, we don't know how much time we have left. We don't know how much longer we'll be here. There are activists who are so tired and exhausted, and to tell them to wait longer, that might mean that they die. And then just to put it simply,
sick and tired of being sick
exactly.
and tired, said Fannie Lou Hamer. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
83 million minutes since 1865. Now's not the time. 83 million minutes. So are we supposed to be at 95 million minutes? That equals 5 trillion seconds. Are we supposed to be at 6 trillion seconds? So I want to also make sure that when people are pushing back, that they are respectful of the patience we have shown. We have shown it.
I'm looking at some of the messages coming in about you. Somebody just said, I love him. I love him. Somebody else said, so nice of Dr. Hunter to wear the KBLA colors today.
Hey, you already know.
We heard across the country about our colors at our station here in L.A. Are a certain thing, and Marcus is donning that certain thing right about now.
Yes.
And somebody else said, I had to stop working and start taking notes. Had to stop working and start taking notes. Marcus is otherworldly. And imagine him on campus teaching young black people. The ancestors are rejoicing. So the people love you. There ain't nothing you can do about it.
Thank you.
And I love you too. And I love your insights. And we will have you back soon.
Absolutely.
Trying to figure out a way to get Marcus Anthony Hunter. We have a number of regular contributors, as you know, including Connie Rice and others. And I'm trying to figure out a way with his busy schedule to get him in the cycle of being one of our regular contributors, because he always makes me think, as I say all the time, when he's here, I always leave this studio smarter than when I came in. His name is Dr. Marcus Anthony Hunter at UCLA. That letter it's all over the internet now.
Yes.
The ABC story.
Yes.
But if you just Google letter to President Biden, signed by 400 black people, you'll find the letter.
That's
just
right.
Google that. Letter to Biden, signed by 400 Negroes. It will come up, and you can read what's in that letter that I was happy to affix my signature to, along with my other black fellow citizens.
Thank you so much.
Dr. Hunter, good to see you, my friend.
Absolutely.
All the best to you. More of Tavis Smiley, our final hour, featuring Terrence Blanchard. Speaking of black genius, we go from black genius to black genius. Terrence Blanchard when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
It's a line with more pro-Palestinian protests planned today. Today marks day 6 of demonstrations, and the school's president is calling it a